Brent Venables said, "What now?"
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. He's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. Brent Venables met with the media on Tuesday and dropped a lot of BV nuggets.
BV nuggets.
What was the first thing that stood out to you, Jay, from Brent Venables' press conference?
He talked about the cohesion in the offense, and I actually appreciate that he decided to go ahead and address that, because that's kind of one of those things he needed to talk about more. He talked about how, with Joe John Finley and Kevin Johns, you saw a lot more collaboration and such, and how the offense looks like it's going in the right direction. And it's kind of funny to say that. It's like, yeah, did y'all not see that before? Like, is this like a new thing that you just now picked up on? Because it makes me a little disappointed in the thought of, we should have had this from jump. That especially if it wasn't looking like it was collaborative or cohesive in the beginning, that should have been like a telltale sign that maybe that there needed to be a change. But I do like that there's a different energy now on the offensive side in practice, and I have a little hope for the future now.
There's hope. It's unfortunate that it took 7 games to figure out that it wasn't going to work. But I mean, you can't go back, can't undo it. But it's going to be one of those little badges that Brent Venables is going to have to wear. Part of the failure of the 2024 season is the offensive coordinator hire, and unfortunately, that's part of the story. As much as injuries are part of the story, the disconnection of the offense because of the hire of Seth Luttrell, and I want to say even the unwillingness to move Kevin Johns from the future scouting role, the analyst role, to more of an on-field role when the opportunity arose. I think Brent Venables has to wear that one too, because you had a guy that had a lot of experience developing quarterbacks with a lot of success, just sitting in a room watching film, when he could have been on the field working with Jackson Arnold, working with Michael Hawkins, working with Brennan Zurbrugg, and getting those guys ready to play ball.
Yeah, maybe a reason why the defense played a lot better. You had a guy with a good eye for it, was able to advance scout and provide you with details. But no, you're 100% right. He needed to be way more hands-on. I know he worked with the quarterbacks, was just not trying to step on toes. And he kind of talked about that too. He just didn't want to, overstep his bounds. But at the same time, yeah, that's one of those things he needs to wear. And so good thing he's recognized and he's acknowledged it. And now it's time to move forward or whatnot. One other thing he mentioned, it was about some red shirts. He talked about on the offensive side, a couple of guys that the expectation is for them to red shirt, Xavier Robinson, as well as Eddie Pierre-Louis. And I think the real thing with Eddie on the red shirt is he didn't get to come in the spring. So he's still trying to learn the playbook. Those guys that come in the spring, because he also ran track. So because he was running track, he still needs to, get back into football shape, as in bulk back up for his size. And then, of course, learn that playbook. And then Xavier Robinson, the running back, we expected him to redshirt, but I didn't realize he played in 3 games so far. Like, I'm kind of curious as to why.
Yeah, he came in, I want to say it was at the end of the South Carolina game, and played in a series and was just as thunderous with the one opportunity that he had, made an impact in that game, and probably played early in the season as well. But yeah, that's a dude that I don't mind saving that red shirt for, because the wear and tear of the running back position is a reality. The more workload you get, the heavier workload you get, it's just harder on your body. And I think keeping him for next year, when this season hasn't really been what you've expected, being able to ride Javonte Barnes, lean into his production, his effort, his ability this year, going into the offseason, that helps you out. And then you got a Taylor Tatum that I think is going to provide you more next year, but you don't need Xavier Robinson this year. You need him next year. You need him in 2026, and you're probably going to need him in 2027.
Yeah.
The fact that you've got that ability is huge. And I think he's going to benefit you down the road more than he'll benefit you now. Eddie Pierre-Louis, I mean, I think that was going to be the plan all along, but that they're making a concerted effort to get him into games. I love that, man. You've seen what he can do, even just from an aggression standpoint. I think that's going to bode well for the Sooners offensive line down the road. But what 2 games would you play him in if you're going to play him the rest of the season?
I've been debating that in my head over the last day. You know, after he played on Saturday, I was like, okay, he's got 2 more games under his belt. Should you do both road games with Missouri and LSU, get him a little exposure out there in SEC country, or do you play him at home against Alabama? And I'm legitimately humming here because I really do not know which one makes the most sense. Most likely, I could see Missouri, then Alabama, especially with kind of the way the health is going. But to me, you kind of want to save him just in case if you really do need to play him. So Alabama, LSU makes the most sense. Not this week. Just have them Alabama, LSU, and have them play those games. But it's really tough to really decide because I kind of want to see him in all 3 of them. But truth be told, probably the best bet is Alabama, LSU. Which ones do you think makes the most sense for Eddie Pierre-Louis to play in?
Yeah, I think initially I was thinking go for the environments that aren't going to be as hostile. So I was thinking Missouri, Alabama. But I think just from a safety net standpoint, unless you need to pull the trigger on him against Missouri, just go ahead and let him sit that one out. Because with the injuries the way that they've been, you might end up needing him. So if you don't need him this week, just roll with Heath Ozida at left guard, roll with Fabechi Wiwu at right guard, and just run with those 2 guys at guard. If you need him for some reason against Alabama, LSU, by all means, then you've got the flexibility to do that. But if you play him this week just in a rotational role, then you kind of lose some of your gamesmanship flexibility of when you can burn that red shirt, or if in the event an injury happens and you have to play him the final 2 games, then you kind of put yourself in a position you didn't want to be in. So I'm of that same mind. Let him play against Alabama. Let him play against LSU. If you don't need him this week against Missouri, then don't feel the need to play him. For Xavier Robinson, I want to see him against LSU.
Yeah.
Like, keep him for that hostile road environment when you're going to need to churn out some dirty yards. You're going to need to run the ball to be effective offensively, and you're going to want to grind the clock a little bit to keep Garrett Nussmeier and that offense off the field.
Yeah, I was between LSU and Alabama for Xavier Robinson. Mine. I actually like that idea for LSU because then you can have him as a bruiser against that big LSU defensive line, even though they haven't been that good on defense this year. But I may actually throw in a bid for Alabama. I mean, let them play the last home game of the season, be out there for senior night, and let them be out there to help against, we know, a Alabama defense that's actually pretty solid when they're playing, all together. You're going to need some big guys out there, guys that are going to be able to run through some people. That might be the game that makes the most sense.
Yeah, so I was looking back at Xavier Robinson too. He played obviously against Maine, and then he played a little bit against Ole Miss, and he played against Texas as well. So,
I didn't realize he did play the Texas game, didn't he?
Yeah, and it was in the Texas game that he had 2 targets, 2 receptions for 12 yards. Hey, listen, I don't mind that actually. I don't mind getting the young guys some experience in that game where it's this big blowout. Now next year, when it's OU Texas, he's got some familiarity with playing in the Cotton Bowl. It's not going to be as much of a surprise to him. And again, this is one of those dudes that every time he's been on the field, he's produced.
It's true.
Even if it is in garbage time or if it's against Maine, production's still production. So it's going to be exciting to see when they get him back on the field. But yeah, I like the idea against LSU, even at home against Alabama. Again, he's one of those dudes that can be a tone setter for you. And I just want to see him on the field. And I'm looking forward to 2025 when they actually get him on the field with great regularity. Jackson Arnold had some things to say about the offense as well. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to a doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through HIMS, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment. Hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Get ready for the college football action and NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because now customers can get $5. If you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. The FanDuel sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place bets on the NFL, college football, everything all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check the latest stats, view play-by-play, so much more on the same page where you place those bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Oklahoma right now sitting at -2.5 against Missouri. If you want in on the action, you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So that's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. And every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Well, that's something we got to talk about a little bit there. Oklahoma, the shift from a 2.5-point underdog to now being a favorite. Jay, what do you make of that as you look at that line?
Yeah, the transition of that line tells me that it all but confirms that Missouri's going to have some injury issues going into this game. We know that Brady Cook came out against Alabama, and it's funny because the social medias was pointing out, they're like, yeah, I think he broke his hand. I'm like, what? He broke his hand. Kind of look at the play like, oh, it does look like he may have broken something. So if that's the case, that's a very good chance that Oklahoma, that's probably why the line shifted itself. It's the injuries. Plus they're starting running back. Noel looks like he's hurt as well. So Missouri's kind of going through the ringer right now with a whole bunch of injuries. That's kind of unfortunate that it populated at this time of the season. But this is also the time of the year when injuries start to hit people. It's the time of the year when you start to deal with a lot more of these, and kind of it sucks. You lose Brady Cook and Nate Noel, but we'll see what it looks like on Saturday when Oklahoma comes to town.
And shockingly, Oklahoma's actually getting a little bit healthier.
Yeah, I know, right?
The season rolls on. Because we had all of our injuries, our big injuries in the first half of the season. Now it's like everything's coming back for Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold let it slip that maybe a couple guys will be back for the Sooners. Speaking with the media last night after practice, he said, I feel like on the field, you have two explosive guys coming back that are key pieces to our offense. Speaking of Dion, Brooks, Jalil, Farooq.
Yeah, Burks,
outside of that, it almost opens up your running game too, because you've got DBs focusing on backers, focusing on Jalil and Dion. I mean, he was pretty emphatic. Those guys are going to be back this weekend.
So we'll say this. The last time that Jackson Arnold said that, he said that about Nick Anderson, and Nick Anderson ended up on the field. Unfortunately, he got hurt again, but Nick Anderson was on the field that game. Right. So knock on wood that it appears that we're going to get both of them. The first injury report comes down Wednesday night. So it'll be sometime in the evening. Which is later on tonight. Now think about it. We'll find out. So we'll be able to talk about that sometime later this week when the first couple of injury reports drop. But if the injury report drops and it shows on that report that they are probable, I expect them to play. Now, if this says questionable for either one of them, I'm out. That's basically my indicator that, yeah, they don't think that they're going to be able to get themselves fully recovered. But Brent Venables even talked about it. He said that Farooq is definitely working really hard and hopes to make a really quick impact, and that both of them have gone through practices. I think he even mentioned that Andrew Anthony has been going through some light practice, non-contact stuff right now. So you got three wide receivers that are looking to try to make a comeback within the next 3 games. And hopefully if we get Burks and Farooq back early, that's definitely a safety net for Jackson Arnold, because you could tell he really likes Farooq. He would throw it to him all the time. And I mean, when you get this 60-something yarder in the first game of the season, you're like, okay, we see the connection. It's coming back. And then you find out he broke his foot and he's gone. And you're like, uh-oh, that's no bueno. But the good thing is you get both of those back. That's going to help a lot on the offensive side.
No, it helps a ton. It gives you two guys that can win in their route, and it gives you two guys that will block in the run game. It gives you two guys that defenses have to account for. For some of the good things that Brennan Thompson and JJ Hester have done this year, or Jacob Jordan, they're not guys that you have to, give extra help on defense to cover. They're not guys that you have to be overly concerned about. Jalil Farooq and Dion Burks have legit college football production. I mean, it may not be 1,000-yard receiving seasons, but they are dynamic weapons in the passing game that can hurt you if you're not fully aware of where they're at. And so I think getting those two guys back, it's going to help open things up for the offense. It's going to give Jackson Arnold guys that he trusts maybe a little bit more to catch the football because they're a little bit more sure-handed than what we have, and gives them guys that are going to be open when they're supposed to be open. So I'm looking forward to that. Jackson Arnold also talked about just the move from Seth Luttrell to Kevin Johns. And I think he spoke more confidently about where his role is in the offense because of what Kevin Johns has been able to do for him over the last few weeks.
Yeah, as the quarterback coach, Kevin Johns, he said that initially he didn't want to step on any toes, and he would help, but he wouldn't really be as hands on. And now he's fully hands on, and he can tell the difference in that. It helps him with his confidence and everything at the position, which makes sense. When you got a young quarterback, you've got to be always hands on, and at the same time, you got to understand that he's going to be able to make some changes out there and make some adjustments. Which I'm proud of Jackson Arnold. He's done a lot better in recognizing defenses. I mean, we talked about it the first week of the season. He made a change to the play and threw the ball to Dion Burks for a touchdown. And that was all, on Jackson Arnold. He saw what the defense was giving him. He made an adjustment, and boom, the route changed. And there you go. There's a touchdown. And he did that similarly with the Brennan Thompson deep touchdown. You could see him look to the side. It looked like there's something with the defense. He made an adjustment. Boom. Next thing you know, Brennan Thompson's deep for a touchdown. So the good thing is that Jackson Arnold the confidence is now there for him. And then getting back those wide receivers is going to do nothing but boost his confidence. Because I don't think people understand, when you're used to throwing the dudes, you know where they're going to be in the way that they pace. It makes it a lot easier for you to make plays. I mean, he was launching it to Jalil Farooq against Arizona in the bowl game. And so I expect to see a lot more. And now that Burks is back, I expect to see even more. It's just that now we've got to figure out ways to get the young guys up to speed a lot faster. But the good thing is that they get to watch these veterans move in practice and watch them move in the game, and they can recognize, so that's the adjustment I need to make on that route. Oh, that's the way I need to change things. Oh, that's the movement I need to make when my quarterback's in trouble. Always stay moving, and that's something that Jackson Arnold's going to get back now that he's potentially getting those wide receivers back against Missouri.
Yeah, and if they are back, that gives you a wide receiver trio that's likely going to be JJ Hester, Dion Burks, and Jalil Farooq potentially starting for you this week.
Ooh,
I mean, I'd throw them back into the starting lineup. If they're ready to roll, you're running out there with the first team. Listen, no disrespect to Jacob Jordan. You've played great, but you don't have the dynamic ability that Dion Burks has. Now, you have the ability to get open. You're going to continue to get playing time.
Oh, yeah.
But if Dion Burks is ready, he's going back into the lineup. If Jalil Farooq is ready, he's going back into the lineup. And Jackson Arnold is going to play with much more confidence with those guys on the field. You go four wide, Jacob Jordan, you're my first wide receiver off the bench. You're going right there into that other slot spot opposite of Dion Burks. So listen, I'm going to try not to get too overhyped or too overexcited about it until I see these guys on the field. But you listen to Jackson Arnold talk, and he talks like they're going to be back and they're going to be available. And you hear the confidence in what he says, and almost the relief in what he says.
Yeah, he sounded relieved.
And listen, we've talked about it before. Nobody's going to make excuses for Oklahoma on the injury front. Nobody's going to feel sorry for him. But it does make a difference. When you have the guys that you're expecting to have on your offense with the first team, it makes a difference for everybody. It gives everybody a little bit of a boost. And so it's an exciting potential development that comes this Saturday as Oklahoma makes the trip to Missouri. What did Brent Venables say about this Missouri game? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Z-Biotics pre-alcohol drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to take Z-Biotic your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel better tomorrow. So here's how to use it. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. And in step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. So go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. And the link's in the description below. Z-Biotics is back to 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for 15% off.
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes it easier to get tickets to your favorite teams or your favorite events, your favorite shows. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Looking at right now, if you want to make the trip up to Columbia to see Oklahoma play Mizzou, there's a lot of seats available, even though they've got half the stadium allocated to grass. Or not half the stadium, but one end zone of the stadium allocated to grass. There's a lot of seats available. I'm looking in the lower section, just behind Oklahoma's bench. You can get tickets for as low as $138, $116 over at Game Time. So you got to go download the Game Time app. It's the easiest place to buy tickets for your favorite live events, whether it's football, basketball, comedy, the theater, you're looking to go to concerts. Game Time's got you covered. So go download the app, use our promo code Locked On College to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Terms apply. Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. The Oklahoma Sooners and the Missouri Tigers renew a, air quotes, rivalry that's dates back to 1902, the first time these two played. They played 96 times in their history, which, listen, I know we don't call it a rivalry, but it is a matchup with historical significance. They've been connected for a very, very long time. The Big 8, the Big 12, but even prior to the Big 8, again, they played a bunch. So we're not going to sit here and call it a rivalry, but it is a game of regional significance. I'll say that much.
Yeah, it's a regional significant game. Like you said, they played 90 plus times, been in the Big 8 together, Big 12 together. So it's renewing a game that we haven't played in a very long time. Lots of Big 12 championship matchups. So you've seen a lot of that. But at the same time, I'm actually curious, who is the Missouri Tigers rival?
They don't have one. Everybody.
I was like it feels like everybody's tried to create one for them, and they just don't really have one. I mean, I guess you got the little border war with
like Kansas
or Kansas State. One of those two kind of does it. I don't know. Arkansas, I think there's been something with Arkansas Razorbacks at some point. I don't know. I'm just kind of, you know what? We'll have to ask them, our Missouri expert, who do they consider themselves to be rivals with? I'd say, because if we were truly, I say, a quote unquote rival, we would have been playing. You know, even though they've been gone the last 12 years, you would find a way to make that game happen. You always try to play against your rivals. That's one that's kind of critical. I mean, unfortunately, our in-state one, they don't want to figure out their schedule to join us, but I digress. You typically try to find a way to play against each other. I mean, Texas was dealing with the same thing with A&M. When A&M left, they're like, we're not playing you anymore. You're dead to us. And so now Texas A&M and Texas get to renew their rivalry. But no, Brent Venables talks about this, and someone asked if it's getting spicy in between the two, and Brent Venables responded with a great quote. He's like, it's not spicy for me. And he talked about some of the players, and we'll jump on them in a minute, like Cayden Green as well as Theo Wease. And one thing he said, our players are free to go as they please. You don't have time to be bitter. So I guess the spiciness that we've all thinking that they have, there's really no spiciness out there, or he's doing a really good job of playing this down to not provide any bulletin board material.
I mean, it's spicy between fans. I know I've had to mute a lot of Missouri fans over the last year just because it's just nonstop. But It is between the fans. I doubt it will be necessarily between the players. And I'm at this point, man. I got no ill will toward Theo Wease or Cayden Green. Theo Wease, like, I think for him, he just kind of had fallen out of opportunity. He just wasn't getting as big of an opportunity to be a part of the passing game as things were developing. With Cayden Green, we all know the story at this point.
Right.
Young kids, they feel pressure from the adults in their lives sometimes, and they make moves sometimes hastily. And we're seeing now that he's fallen out of the starting lineup with Missouri that maybe this wasn't the best move for him to make, but it was his decision to make. And again, it is what it is. But I'm past like feeling any sort of way about either of those two leaving Oklahoma. It's just the world that we live in. It's the transfer portal. Sometimes the transfer portal is going to benefit you with the Dion Burks. Sometimes you're going to get hurt by it by losing a freshman All-American, which is what Cayden Green was. It's just unfortunate that he went to Missouri and they broke him.
Yeah, it the transfer portal giveth and the transfer portal taketh away. It's just kind of just the game that it is. So that's basically what's important here. You're going to get some guys out of him. You're going to lose some guys. And for Theo Wease, even Brent Venables talked about him. He was like, he was excellent there. Just unfortunately, it didn't work out to where he's being utilized as much as they would like, or even he would like. It's just kind of how the depth chart works. And he went somewhere where he can be leveraged. And so you're seeing that from him. He's having himself a little solid season there, and he's balling. So now you get to actually see him show, the game that you expected out of him. He's their leader in yards right now this season at 482, second in catches. So it's him and the Luther Burden show. Those are the two guys you got to keep your eyes on. So he got everything that he needed and wanted by going to Missouri and leaving Oklahoma. He's got the exposure and the ability to be targeted extremely often. And so, Venables was very complimentary of Theo Wease. Same thing with Cayden Green. He knew that he was going to be good no matter where he played. And, he got there and he became a starter at left guard immediately. So it is what it is. The big thing now is that we've got a matchup to drive up there to Columbia and play against Missouri for the first time in a long time. And don't give them any bulletin board material. Just go out there and play hard.
Yeah, it's a game that Oklahoma needs to win. It's a game that gives them an opportunity to earn bowl eligibility. And I know that that's not the goal for Oklahoma football in any given year. But this year, with this team, the way it's gone, earning bowl eligibility gives you a little bit of positive momentum heading into the offseason and gives you all those important bowl practices that you can use to further develop your young guys. So there is an import to it. It would keep a streak of 25 consecutive seasons with a bowl game intact. But more than that, again, it's about getting more practices for those young guys to continue to develop and potentially getting them some snaps in a game that's not going to count against their red shirt.
Yeah. The bowl game, and Venables talked about that too. He mentioned that it's not something they're thinking about right now. They're focused 1 week at a time. And I'm just like, come on, bro. We know that your goal is to get a bowl game so that you can get these guys more practices, especially if it's a nice bowl game you can travel to. You want to have these guys out there getting those extra reps. That is important, as you mentioned. That's a critical component in the development of your players. Having those extra bowl games allows for them to, go through the playbook. If you're not going to a bowl game, guess what? You're done practicing. No more playbook on the field studying. No more going through actual live action. You're done. And then if you have players that decide to early enroll, they're not able to go with you to practice or go to the game. And so that takes away a great experience that you can have for your players. I know that we have a lot of dudes that are planning on early enrolling for the 25 class. You want to have the option to be able to take them to that bowl game, let them see what's going on, let them see the environment and be able to play in it. I would prefer that they, get that option. And so as much as he's saying it's quiet, come on now. We know that you're out there trying to get to that bowl game. It's okay, BV. It's okay to admit it, that you're kind of looking slightly ahead. But the good thing is this is one of the 3 games that gives you the opportunity to do that. So you go up to Missouri, you handle business, do what you're supposed to do, and then you're talking about bowl game.
Yeah, it might not be something he's vocalizing, but it's something he's thinking about, because how could you not? But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube as well. Follow me at John 9 Williams. You can also read my work covering the Sooners at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, whatever you want to call it. We're over there. So follow us over there. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. Boomer.
Sooner.